Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Kaga. So today we're going to revisit a little topic that we opened up a little while ago on the subject of tactics or strategy. And right now we're cruising in the Tier 8 Mogami, the Japanese heavy cruiser, and we're divvied up with Wokyu. You've seen this person a number of times before on the channel. And we're divvied up with this person and their Tier 9 American battleship, the Iowa. And I'm mentioning these two things specifically, not these two things, but these two ships specifically because it kind of plays into a little thought I had recently, and I'd like to explore that in today's video. A touch anyway. And it goes to, it gets lumped together with this topic of tactics and strategy. In particular, I began thinking about what is the difference between all the cruiser branches in World of Warships. Because, you know what, we have the rest of the classes are fairly well defined in their role in whether or not you look at the tactical advantage or the strategic advantage. At least at first glance, anyway. You have very clearly the battleships, which, for all intents and purposes, their role is force projection. That's more of a strategic thing than more of a tactical one. You have the aircraft carriers, which can strike the most opportune target on the map. Again, that's more of a strategic thing. And then you have destroyers, who are the masters of stealth. Most of them are masters of stealth. They have the ability, anyway, to force a scenario, which is not really a strategic thing, but definitely more of a tactical power. But where does that leave cruisers? Alright, it's an interesting question. And I think that it varies on whether or not the cruiser is alone or divisioned, and if they are divisioned, who are they divisioned with? And I don't mean just the actual person, but the types of ships that they're divisioned with. In this particular case, we'll look at the effect that in this case, the Japanese cruiser has on the division when paired up with a battleship. Well, the battleship, being that force projection tool, we've already talked about as being very much the realm of strategy. They take their shots very carefully. Now, we don't have to worry about that in a cruiser. Our guns, we fire fast enough. We can go ahead and apply the pressure when it's needed, as it's needed, to either help their attacks or to cover them in the advent or in the event that they require it, like when a destroyer were to pop up too close nearby, or use our AA to cover them from air attack. Some of the new cruiser abilities include radar. There's the long-equipped sonar ability. I mean, these are just some of the things that we can do to make life a little bit easier for them. And at the same time, we can still get in there and be that localized force multiplier. Well, not really a force multiplier per se, but a that force center back that can always be relied on, you know? Well, maybe that's a bad way to look at it. It's like the fulcrum of a lever. Everything kind of, it goes around it, but you don't really notice the fulcrum itself. You've noticed the lever, you notice the effect of the lever, things like that. And that's an interesting line of thought, going from that to where we are now. Because if I was to change who I was divisioned up with, well, then things are a little bit more different across the board here. Now let's assume that it was with another cruiser. Now currently in the game, there's at tier 8, you have the Admiral Hipper, you have the New Orleans, and you have, well, soon to come, the new Russian light cruiser I cannot remember the name of. And depending on which one that you were divisioned with, I would argue that how you approach the battle changes from a tactical to a strategic sense. Now, let's go ahead and play up on that a little bit. If I was with the light cruiser, or even the American cruiser, I would argue that my shots, because they are more potent outright and pretty much across the board, are ones taken in a more strategic fashion than ones where I'm divvied up with an Admiral Hipper or an Atago equivalently, because the relative expected output would be about the same. Now, would that always be the case? No, but this is just one of those nice little thought experiments, if you will, on how things would change. And again, I'm just looking at it from the, what if I change this? I expect something a little bit different. And now, we've thought about the cruisers a little bit, and if I consider the case where we're paired up with equivalent cruisers, so something like an Admiral Hipper or the Atago, either cruiser in any of the cruisers in the that type of category in the division that we're in could transition from strategic to tactical advantage at any given time, just because they're comparable in most ways, and it would really be up to how the division wants to approach battle at any given instant. And that's one of the that's a little bit more of a tangent, by the way. That's just one of those tactical flexibilities that a division has over a solo player, is that you can change things up a little bit more certainly and more rapidly, because you can affect 25% of the battle rather than around 8% of the battle, just by looking at the total numbers on the team list. And that's assuming parity amongst the ships, and we all know that's not the case. Detracting, again, I will do that a fair bit today. Detract and all that goodness. Now, if I was to be divisioned up with destroyers, oh, definitely. There's no doubt about it. My actions are definitely on the order of strategy in comparison, because the scope of my attacks is so much farther. It is, generally speaking, going to be harder hitting for more of the time. And generally speaking, I don't have the luxuries of bobbing in and out of vision the same way they do. So the actions I take are going to be much more careful and borderline pensive on some actions, whereas the destroyer can afford to be much more blatantly aggressive and not have to consider actions as deep into time as I will. And in that respect, you can see the various situations. Oh yeah, I forgot one. Hands up, give yourself a pat on the back if you spotted which one I forgot it. And yeah, there's that one class left, and that's if I was divvied up with an aircraft carrier. Well, that's no contest, right? They have supreme choice. I do not. So, naturally, I must play the tactical role. Now, whether that's escorting them or going out and harrying the defense line for enemy destroyers, well, that's entirely up to how you play. And that is your choice of tactics right there. And I think that's one of those things that at least I've started to notice about, and I'm going to say, I say that with respect to all cruisers, is that part of what makes each line unique is how they balance those scenarios and which ones they're more tailored to. Now, some have outstanding tactical power. The Japanese heavy cruisers are prime examples of great tactical power. They have very potent torpedoes, they have good armor-piercing ammunition, they have superlative high-explosive ammunition, they have reasonable secondaries, and only enough defensive power to cover themselves. Whereas I take the opposite end of the spectrum with the US heavy cruisers, and you see something else. They sacrifice a lot of offensive power for what in a sense is strategic area of denial against air attack. Now, in comparison, you have I guess you can think of them as the fleet linebacker, if you will pardon the use of American football terminology, battle cruiser line to come in the Russian cruisers in soon TM fashion. And you have that all-purpose running back always vying for attention in the fact they can do just about everything in the form of the German heavy cruisers. And we get to see a very interesting balance of what they're capable of, both strategically and tactically. And, well, I wish this particular replay was a little bit longer, but beggars can't be choosers. This was a good enough game. It was worth showing. Good enough talking to. And we did fairly well with this. You wouldn't believe that this was the first night I had back playing World of Warships in about 2 weeks, I want to say. Wouldn't believe it. And it was a fairly good match in terms of base XP. My division mate and myself managed to pick up 7 kills out of the entirety of the enemy team's 12 ships. Did fairly well there. And, can't complain about that. Actually, did fairly well. The only thing I can be a little distracted about was chat throughout the entirety of that. And I hope it wasn't too distracting for y'all. And, wow. I'm not even going to try to calculate that. I don't feel like it. There's too many numbers and too many columns, and it's too early in the morning or too late at night, depending on how you want to look at it. Well, anyway, that's the way the ball rolls. We did our part, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider giving it a like down below. If you're new to the channel, please consider sticking around by hitting the old subscribe button. I hope to see you around in the future. Of course, look forward to a quick World of Tanks video tomorrow. The return of our regularly scheduled War Thunder Wednesdays. And of course, we'll finish off the week with some more World of Warships. And we will finish off the week with a very explosive round. I hope you look forward to that one. And of course, alluding to upcoming content, please look forward to our upcoming upcoming video series showcasing the some military classics, passage by passage, of course, and interpreted with respect to how gamers might find them useful or insightful, or in other words, how you might shove them down your clanmates' throats and, try to get them to learn. The choice is up to you. Anyway, thank you for having bared with me for almost 16 minutes now. Thank you, and I bid you a good day.